And good afternoon, and welcome to the Woodlawn Station for episode 5. He's Colin. My name is Chris. And once again, no Dominic Noto. I don't know where he's been these days, but just some quick news. A shorter episode today, probably because there isn't too much happening in the sports world, but we are still going to cover what has been going on. Baseball spring training is underway. I believe it just started this past weekend. That's right. And it feels like we got here so quick. But we do have some news with the Yankees and the Blue Jays, actually. The Yankees last night played a spring training game against the Washington Nationals, and they won 7-0. But, spring training scores don't really matter very much. We don't really care about those. It's more about player performances, what we've seen from some players. And what we saw, what were the standout player, the guy everyone's talking about, is Ryan Weathers, the one of the newest Yankees, or I believe he is or he's not the newest Yankee now. Actually, there is a player that they signed recently or last night, actually. But Ryan Weathers, one of the newest members of this team, a trade that they made a few months ago with Miami Marlins, trading 3 young prospects for this pitcher. Uh, 3 2/3 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts, no walks. About as good of a performance as you can put up early in spring training. And not only that, but probably the biggest talking point was that he threw the fastest pitch of his career. I think it was 99.5 miles an hour, 99.5 miles an hour, the fastest pitch in his career. And he's getting comparisons to Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. Now, I don't want to speak too soon on this, but it would be quite the situation for the Yankees if Brian Cashman and his crew, instead of going to trade for Tarek Skubal, figured we can turn another pitcher into Tarek Skubal. They get Ryan Weathers for a much cheaper price and could unlock a new potential here that we haven't seen yet from him in Major League Baseball. Now, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Dom was on the air with us. That Ryan Weathers was highly touted out of high school. He didn't go to college. He was drafted out of high school by the Padres. They thought of him very highly. He performed in the postseason for that team in 2020 against the Dodgers. I think that was his debut in 2020 Division Series against the Dodgers. And in that same postseason, on the other side of the bracket, he had the Tampa Bay Rays putting out Shane McClanahan to make his major league debut against the Yankees in that Division Series. So that kind of goes to show, right? McClanahan's been hurt, but he was an elite starter in the early 2020s, like 2021 and 2022, and he was used in the postseason that year. Ryan Weathers is kind of the Padres version of Shane McClanahan at that point, hard throwing lefty. So they thought very highly of him. But they did trade him. Things weren't really working out. Couldn't really figure him out. They traded him to Miami. He figures himself out just a little bit, puts himself in a conversation to be in a rotation. But here the Yankees come trading for him with the opportunity or the expectation of unlocking a new level. And if they do that, then this team is genuinely going to be better than last year's team. I mean, one of the biggest issues down the stretch, right? We saw Max Fried struggling, Garrett Cole being hurt, a couple of other issues. It wasn't until Cam Schlittler came up that we started to feel more confident about this rotation, and it actually ended up being the team's issue in the postseason, right? Max Fried's bad start against the Blue Jays. Carlos Rodon really wasn't sharp. Luis Gil wasn't great in Game 1. So starting pitching overall was an issue for this team. We talked about it last year that it was probably the most complete offense, but the starting rotation was an issue. If they can get Garrett Cole back, Max Fried's going to be here. Carlos Rodon is dealing with an injury, but he should be pitching this season. Cam Schlittler looks like he's going to be okay. If they can add Ryan Weathers to that list and he becomes an elite, no, I wouldn't say elite, but definitely a viable option for this team, that's going to be big.
Yeah, and I mean, really, when I look at what Ryan Weathers could bring to this Yankee team, the big thing that sticks out to me is the age. He's only 26 years old.
Yeah.
And I think really, I know you love Will Warren. You love talking about how you think Will Warren is going to be the future face of New York sports, but I'm not a Will Warren guy. So you take a look at the guys that we have. You take a look at the older guys, kind of the more established. The Garrett Coles, the Carlos Rodons, the Max Frieds. Garrett Cole's 35, Rodon's 33, and Max Fried is 32. So obviously, your top 3 starters all enter in their early to mid 30s. It's not really ideal, especially when you want to have longevity throughout a 162 game season. Because, like I said, Obviously, we wish the best for all of our players. We hope they stay healthy, but it's just kind of unrealistic when you have guys at that age. But you then take a look at the potential young core you could have here with Ryan Weathers being 26, Cam Schiller is only 25, and Luis Heel is 27. So to me, it kind of feels like I guess the old guard and the new guard. And I really do hope they unlock something out of Ryan Weathers. Obviously, getting the velocity up is huge. We've seen a lot of Matt Blake reclamation projects over the years. Most of the time, it's kind of been relievers. Really, the last time that I can remember it being a starter was Nestor Cortez, where they brought a guy in who many people didn't really see as being a big time starter for a contended team in Major League Baseball, and they turned him around. So if you do that again with Weathers, I mean, once again, that's huge. Because I mean, I'm sure there's going to be guys like once again Will Warren, Ryan Yarbrough. They're going to pick up some
Yeah,
spot starts here and there, but if everyone's healthy, you can get a potential 6-man rotation. That's lethal, and
that
I
is
mean
big.
that's what separates the good teams from the great teams. And you saw in the postseason, you saw Toronto figured out their way around the Yankee pitch, and eventually it came to a point where Max Fried got touched up, so did Rodon. So if you have 6 different options you can go to, because say you get into October, and let's say even Garrett Cole is not at his best, right? You have 500 guys you could switch to and rely on. So, granted, you always assume that, well, the most established guys are going to get those big time starts. But listen, if guy's the hot hand, we saw it with Cam Schlittler last year, sometimes the most unexpected options are the best options. So I am really excited about the potential of that. And I think that once again, it only helps the Yankees more to have multiple pitching options. And we've seen Brian Cashman make these smart moves with pitching before. So, like you said, not going big game hunting for a Scooble or another big time pitcher and getting the guy who can maybe hopefully put up some pretty good production. That's a pretty solid move for the Yankees front office if it pulls off.
Definitely. Now, the Will Warren thing, just for some context for everyone, it's a bit of an inside joke I've been making where I said in 3 years, hot take, 3 years from now, and I said this last year, but 3 years from now, the two faces of New York sports will be Jackson Dart and Will Warren.
I thought it
One
was
of the
Daniel
two.
Jones at one point, or was it
No,
someone else?
Jackson Dart.
Okay.
Jackson Dart. We're halfway there. We're halfway there. It's never gonna happen with Warren. Obviously, that's just an outlandish joke on my part. There's no way Will Warren's gonna
Even
be
so,
that.
you were quite a big Will Warren
No,
supporter.
definitely. And I think he can definitely still play a role in this team. I think the stuff is good. He definitely should not have been pitching as often as he was last year. Now, we knew he was a fifth starter, and having a mid-4 ERA fifth starter who can eat innings, that's important because at the end of the day, they still won. And probably if it wasn't for, it's not all Will Warren, he was part of the problem. But if it was, if you take away Devin Williams from this
Average
team,
exit velo in the 7th percentile and chase percentage in the 8th percentile.
no, he had some rough ones. He had some rough outings. He definitely had
Mostly
some rough
against the good
outings.
teams.
Yeah, no, it was all bad teams dominant, good teams not great. But all right, I didn't view him as a guy who's going to pitch like Game 7 of the World Series or even in the postseason.
Yeah,
He was in that postseason game.
If
How
we're ever
bad
playing
that was.
Colorado, he's our guy, so don't
No.
worry about that.
Well, I don't know if that's true. It's a hitter ballpark, but stuff was pretty good, and he did eat a lot of innings, and they did win some games with him. And again, still winning 94 games without having Garrett Cole. He definitely wasn't part of the problem. In fact, if Devin Williams wasn't on the team, they probably went over 100 games still, even with him. But I think as a reliever, maybe they could figure something out. Overall, whatever. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But one of the biggest, or probably the main piece of news with the Yankees over the past day is that they signed Randall Grichuk to a minor league contract. Essentially, they're going to let him play out spring training. He will be in AAA, but if he performs in spring training, he could crack the team out of spring training. Last year was terrible, terrible last year. But if you look behind that, or beyond last year, 2024 was phenomenal. In just 100 games, he batted 291, 875 OPS with 12 homers. It pretty much changed his game from a all or nothing power bat, which is what he was for most of his career, to more of a contact guy in Arizona. He was okay in the first half last year with Arizona. They weren't contending. Kansas City was on the fringe, and he goes to Kansas City, which is a very pitcher friendly ballpark, and was just awful in 43 games, 2 homers with batted just over 200 and under 600 OPS. Awful, but he's been a Yankee killer throughout his career. He still has some pop. He has played very well at Yankee Stadium. He played with the Blue Jays for quite a few years in the late 2010s. So he's also bounced around between a few teams. He's been a pretty solid player in Major League Baseball for a while, and he is towards the end of his career. He's 34 years old. It's not a huge signing, but it is a name that I think a lot of Yankee fans should learn because we see this probably every single year, that they'll sign this outfielder, journeyman outfielder, who ends up playing like every single game because somebody gets hurt.
I was just about to say that. That was gonna be my next point. This
Yeah,
just screams like the next Marwin Gonzalez. That's what it
yeah,
feels like. Just that guy who's gonna make the opening day roster, and everyone's gonna be like, "How did that happen?" And then as soon as you know it, fifth game, boom, he's batting seventh. This just
yeah.
kind of feels like
I'm
that to me.
I'm gonna find this out right now, but I saw or the guy who came to mind for me first. Oh my god, I can't remember his name, but the one that everyone was saying was going to be the next Matt Carpenter.
Franchi
Yeah, there you
Cordero.
go,
There you
Franchi.
go.
I remember Colin hated him, and he wasn't great. He would definitely
Oh yeah,
definitely
he had
wasn't
like
great.
one good game in Cleveland, I remember, and
Yeah,
then off a cliff, just like
yeah.
they always do.
I found it. Pablo Reyes was the guy last year. For this
Okay,
team.
yeah, I knew
Yeah,
that. I knew there was a guy
yeah.
last year. I forgot the name.
Every year there's a guy, and this is going to be the guy this year, Randall Grichuk.
And Aaron
Um,
Boone's gonna be like, "Yeah, we have a lot of faith in Randall. You know, he's done this a long time." Then eventually he'll wait until like end of May. Like he's playing a video right now of Aaron Boone. It looks like he's saying that right now. Yeah.
He's saying something.
Randall Grichuk is gonna maybe he'll hit a couple home runs in April and like a blowout win and get over the Twins. And then in May he's gonna fall off. Once they start losing in June, he's gonna eventually get demoted. So that's just what's gonna happen there.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's funny too because a lot of these guys actually are Yankee killers. I remember Marwin Gonzalez on the Astros,
Oh yeah.
that team that won in 2017. A lot of these guys end up being Yankee killers, and they join the Yankees, and they're awful. So it's the same old story. But obviously, here he comes. Wish him the best.
And I already know, I could already imagine a scenario where it's the second week of April and we're screaming over how he's getting starts over Jason Dominguez because that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Let's face the reality. That's what's going to happen. Somehow, some way, Randall Grichuk is going to take playing time from Jason Dominguez.
I wouldn't even say that either. Well, yeah, I mean, that definitely could happen. But even like a Spencer Jones, I could see Spencer Jones crushing the ball in like AAA, and it's May, and we're calling for him to get called up, and they won't call him up because they want to get Randall Grichuk these at bats for whatever reason. But that's probably why they're doing it. They're just extra padding, whatever. It just feels like the Yankees sometimes take these like extra padding signings. These are backup signings and take them to another level.
It really is kind of crazy though when you think about all the years. Is it just they're trying to find the next Matt Carpenter? Because that's the only time it really ever worked out.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the idea?
I think that was just a fluke. Or I mean, it's obvious at this point that was a fluke. But that's
We'll still never forget.
It does. It's. I know a lot of people say this, so it's kind of lost its meaning, but it really does need to be studied. The Matt Carpenter run with the Yankees, that was something else.
Yeah, I mean
I've never seen anything like that. I didn't before that. To this
I
day,
think
I
that
haven't
was
seen
the close.
anything
That was like
that.
the baseball version of Linsanity. That was
Oh.
what we saw.
No,
There is insane.
And especially the fact he retired 2 years later was. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers here. He was nothing. He was nothing the next 2 years. That's right, because he played in 2022, and then he became a free agent, and that was when San Diego signed him, and they expected him. They signed him to actually, I think, a pretty big deal. It was like a big 1-year contract, expecting him to be anything close to what he did with the Yankees, and he just wasn't. It was like they gave him 76 games, and it's pretty bad. Batted under 200, and then he went to St. Louis for a year and kind of had a retirement ceremony from there. But just for reference, that's not the most home runs he's ever hit in a season. He hit 36 in 2018, but he hit 15 in 47 games with the Yankees and batted over 300 with over 1,100 OPS. I remember it was that year 2018 when he had 36 homers. There was like a period. It was also in June or July, where he just went on a rampage. I remember because I was playing the show back then. He got like the monthly award card. It was unbelievable. It was all anyone talked about for like 2 weeks was Matt Carpenter. So the fact that he did that with the Yankees 2 years later is nuts. And that's kind of the state of sports right now. Is here we are talking about 2022 Matt Carpenter.
I think that is a very worthwhile topic.
I agree. And you know what? I think I want to talk about it more. Because it was truly remarkable.
I don't believe we ever got the chance to talk about Matt Carpenter.
I don't think we did because we were entering college.
Yeah, we're still in high school.
So we were doing the show that we did, and actually all we had to say was bad things about Matt Carpenter because he was pretty bad in that postseason. I remember, and that honestly brings me back to that year because I remember he was coming back from an injury. He suffered an injury. That's honestly what stopped him. And in a way, looking back on it, the injury was a great thing because it left us wondering. Because if he didn't get hurt, there's no way he's sustaining that for that long.
No,
He
yeah, and
probably would have fell off, and then it would have been like every other journeyman that
no,
they signed.
something I will never forget because I was there game 5 of the ALDS against
Yeah.
Cleveland, and I remember they pinch hit for Matt Carpenter, and like I want to say the 7th or 8th inning. The applause that he got was louder, and I swear to you, than I heard from Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. The entire stadium went on their feet, and like I've never seen that before for a journeyman who really just signed on. You'll probably never see something like that again. Just the reception, the way Yankees fans loved them for 1 year, it truly was, as you said, an unbelievable run.
I will say, we kind of had a funny experience with it, and I can't believe I'm bringing it up again, but like the show, that you were like just using his card. It was like a random Cardinals card that he has, like a 90 card, and you liked him. You started to like him. It was just
Yeah.
a joke that we do when we play that game with just random players. And then like half an hour after that or whatever, you must have hit a home run with him. Half hour later, the Yankees signed him. And it was like the most random thing. And we thought that would be the end of the joke. Like we'd never talk about it again. And then he ends up going on this run.
No, I still say Matt Carpenter is one of my favorite Yankees ever.
Yeah.
2022 Matt Carpenter is
started
one of my
there.
favorite Yankees ever.
It started there, and everything. I mean, he grew the mustache. That's another huge one because Nestor had the mustache. Everyone loved that. We all loved that. And then Matt Carpenter joins in. So he just he did about everything you could do.
You remember when Joey Gallo tried growing out the mustache too, and it just didn't work?
That was awesome. No, it was very funny. And then I think he actually ended up doing worse with the mustache. And then he ended up shaving it, thinking that was going to make any difference. Joey Gallo.
Shame he never
brings him
caught on
back.
as a pitcher, huh?
Yeah, he tried it. He tried it. I'm trying to see here. 2024 he played. That's crazy. That's another one that kind of drives me nuts. Joey Gallo, when the Yankees traded for him, everyone was raving about it, saying they thought he was going to hit like over 70 homers over the short porch. And
70?
I was hearing crazy numbers.
There is no way any person with a functioning brain said 70.
I don't know
back then.
logical, but I don't know if any logical person was saying that. But he was very good with Texas that season. He was an all-star. This is 2021. He was an all-star in that first half with Texas. He hit 25 homers in that first half. Actually, for Joey Gallo, pretty high average. It was 223.
Oh,
I mean, for Joey Gallo, that's big. The highest average he's ever had in a season, probably his best season. It was only 70 games. That explains it. Was 253, 986 OPS. That was 2019. He was an all-star that year as well. Most homers in a season, 41 in 2017. But in 2021, he was great with the Texas Rangers. But the last thing that Yankee team needed was more swing and miss. I mean, that was the biggest problem. And they bring Joey Gallo, and all he did was bring more of that, and he popped. I remember it was the biggest, shortest home run I've ever seen
against the Mariners.
Against the Mariners, the signature Yankee moment. Those 3-run homer. It was like an inside slider.
No, honestly, after like that highlight happened and Michael K said that, I never want to hear the word signature Yankee moment ever again. That was.
Yeah. And that's another thing they always do, the Yankees. It's always like a mid-season game against, or like a midsummer game against the Mariners, that somebody does something big and all like the stadium is packed and everyone's excited, and all of that just to exit October early. And that happened that year. That was the year they lost in the wild card to Boston, which is insane to think about. Again, I'm getting like flashbacks here to these players, but Joey Gallo was truly awful with the Yankees, especially. I mean, that 2022 first half was unbelievable. 159, 621 OPS, and he popped 12 home runs. He actually ended up doing better in the second half, in the month and a half that he was with the Yankees in 2021, than he did in the entire 82 games in the first half of 2022 with the Yankees. So they traded him to the Dodgers, and that's one of the few times you'll ever see the Yankees make a midseason trade with the Dodgers or any other rival of theirs. Is if it involves getting rid of Joey Gallo.
Could you imagine if he actually worked out there, though? He just became like their Teoscar Hernandez, and he was just like crushing it against us in the World Series. Imagine how much worse that would have been.
No, it would have been terrible. It would have been terrible, but there was no saving it. There was no saving him. It was at that point where like I remember when he got traded, I was wishing him well. I was wishing him well on the Dodgers. I was hoping he would figure it out because if he did, it really wouldn't matter to me. He was so bad with the Yankees that it was doing nobody any service to keep him here. We weren't doing him any good by keeping him around. He hated it here. He made a comment in an interview how he couldn't go outside. He thought he was going to get attacked by fans, which I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it past them. But then again, I also don't know how dedicated people are.
And this just goes in general. Like people always say, like, "Oh, you're not made for New York," and I always felt that's kind of like a blanketed statement where, like, surely it can't be that much of an impact. But Joey Gallo is probably the one example in at least in recent sports history where I feel like that guy just wasn't built for New York.
No, it's true.
And it feels like a very stereotypical, like, sort of thing to say that you always hear. Like, I guess, it's just something you hear in the media a lot, and I never really bought into it. But that's the one time where I felt like maybe there is something there.
Yeah. What I was trying to say is I don't think anyone like there are Yankee fans that are there are diehard Yankee fans, then there are those like me who probably would recognize these players on the street. But I don't think Joey Gallo I don't know. Like he's not Tom Brady like
Okay,
on the street.
random question. What is like the absolute lowest tier of current Yankee player you recognize on the street? Would you recognize
Oh.
all of them, or is there like a cutoff?
Well, Grandel Grichuk, the newest one, I would. But I'm gonna see here. I'll have to get used to them. Eventually, like once the season starts and I start actually seeing these guys like play every day, and it's also because baseball plays every day. So like if you watch every game, you kind of get used to seeing these guys. Bednar would be difficult because I'm always so used to seeing him like just wearing baseball. He kind of just strikes me as like just a big guy, or like a big like a husky guy. I don't know. Will Warren would probably be difficult. That's another thing to keep in mind is like I see these guys with their uniform. Obviously, we're gonna recognize them, but I very rarely see any of these guys without their uniform or any of us. So it's like all right. So like I'll take Brent Hedrick for example. Like I don't want to just see a white dude with a mustache in the city and say, "Hey, are you Brent Hedrick?" And the off chance that it's not him. I would never
But
do
now
that. So that would be difficult.
imagine if you were, you would probably be the only guy who
Right.
ever spotted Brent Hedrick in the middle of Times Square.
Well, that
Think
actually
about that.
reminds me of when we saw Anna Montevino
Yes.
at Yankee Stadium. That just for context for everyone, we went to it was a game against the Twins. It was Aaron Judge MVP bobblehead night, and there was a long rain delay to start. The game didn't start yet at that point. It was like an hour-long rain delay. I remember.
Game didn't start till like 9.
Yeah, and Cam Schlittler pitched that game. I remember he did well, but we were just walking, so we're like, okay, we're bored. Let's just walk around the concourse area or around the stadium. And I forgot. I think we were looking for like a food or something. And I see this tall guy, and to me he looks a little like Anna Montevino. Now I remember Ottavino with the Yankees. This is when I was younger. He was on the team in 2019. He was an important reliever. He pitched like every game, or not every game, but like every other game. Pitched a lot that year. Was almost an all-star. So I see this guy, and he is taller, and he's wearing a Yankees t-shirt. It's not the most far-fetched thing in the world. I also have seen him on MLB Network. He's been on the Yes Network recently. So like I've kind of seen him without I think that's the example of what I'm trying to say is I've seen him without his Yankee gear. I've seen him with his hair out. So like I kind of it just felt right. It felt like that was it had to be him. That had to be Anna Montevino. Now we ended up like seeing him again later on, and he was over by the stairs, which I don't know how else to put it, but there's really only one. I think there's only one staircase at Yankee Stadium. That one close to the bleachers. You get like a view of the whole stadium and the bleachers from that staircase. Um, we were from the second deck. I don't know how else to explain it, but yeah, it's like where the bleachers are. There's a long staircase, and he was just standing there with some other guy who I think it was just a friend of his. And it was unlike I've never seen anything like that. And it made me question like how often do players do this? These maybe journeyman relievers or bench guys who retire go back to the stadium. How often do they do that? Just go and just chill because they can do that, and that's actually a luxury to be able to enjoy a major league career and still not have to be recognized by everyone except for like the most diehard of fans.
Yeah, and truly, when that happened in the moment, like I didn't doubt the fact that it was Adam Ottavino. I just couldn't believe the fact that the guy who played for the Yankees for how many years was it?
It was 3 years, maybe.
Exactly. So he played for the Yankees for all those years. Is
And
walking
really
around
quickly-
Yankee Stadium through the second deck, Not a single fan recognized him. He
Right.
walked past like he was just any other fan in the stands.
I just want to put it in there that he played for the team that year also.
Yes.
This year he played for the team, 2025, and later that season, not on the team anymore and still coming back to root for the team, was definitely
Like
a sight to
imagine, just for
behold.
context, imagine if Aaron Judge tried to do that, just
Yeah.
walk around the
And he
second
never
deck
would
of
be
Yankee
able to.
Stadium.
He
Exactly, but
wouldn't.
it goes to show you kind of the difference in that.
It is, and it's definitely a good thing that on his part. Now, one thing I did find out about that was because it got confirmed, it was not Joe's McFly. It was oh my god, I'm forgetting. He's Keith McPherson. Keith McPherson was at the game, and he got a picture with Adam Ottavino. That Ottavino had the MLB lifetime pass to bring himself and one other person to any baseball game he ever wants to go to for the rest of his life. A little golden
So they can
credit
go to the
card.
World Series too, as
Yeah.
well, right? Okay.
So he was just going. Or I don't know. Actually, I don't know the rules on that if it's just regular season. But I can't imagine they would turn down Ottavino, considering he was also on the team that year. But he was using that, and so that's a really cool thing. But yeah, that's a good. I mean, this is a guy who was in Major League Baseball for over 10 years and well known in this area too. Has pitched for the Mets as well, and was also on the Red Sox. So he's been around the block. He's been on quite a few different teams around here, and he's he's been a solid reliever for a while. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing here. This is him without the hair, or without the hat rather. So that was pretty cool. And I can't say I saw this podcast going in that direction.
Yeah, you gotta love a February podcast where you talk
Yeah.
about 2022 Matt Carpenter, Joey
Joey
Gallo, and
Gallo.
Adam Ottavino.
Yeah,
Nothing better.
yeah, but it will get better. I mean,
Well, unless you want to mention Max Scherzer.
oh right, yeah, the Blue Jays are bringing back Max Scherzer. I haven't looked at the details of the contract because I really, in my heart of hearts as a Yankee fan, I don't really care. I should. No, I should. But he did have a 5 ERA last year. He pitched in game 7. He did, and he was all right in that game.
Has to be his last season, right?
I would imagine. He was
mean,
already
if they-
contemplating it last year.
If they won that game 7, he would have won out there. I have to
Definitely,
imagine.
yeah. So he's giving it one more go with this team that just made it there, and the attempt of going back there. And look, I mean, I don't mean to say I don't care. It's just the Blue Jays. I really don't want to think about them. The Yankees already started playing. I want to focus on the Yankees. Like as a fan, I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Max Scherzer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best pitchers of all time. 3-time Cy Young winner. Last year with Toronto, it was 85 innings. He didn't pitch that much. 17 games, 17 starts, 5 ERA. But it's still, again, it's Max Scherzer. And in the postseason, it's one of those things. It's Max Scherzer. You're going to let him go as long as he needs to.
If the Blue Jays won that game 7, I think that would have been one of the greater, I guess, last games for a baseball player ever, though, right? I mean,
Yeah,
going 4
it would have to
one
be.
run, 41 years old.
Yeah.
That would have been, I think, really up there for kind of a storybook way to end a
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, and I think Max has proven he really just wants to win no matter what. He did that with Washington. He didn't win that World Series MVP, and he was all right in Game 7 of that in 2019 against the Astros. He was all right. He gave up 2 runs, but he kept it there. That's the most important thing. And he was also on the 2023 Rangers team. I forget about that. So he's trying to go out with his fifth organization. He was on the Dodgers for a little bit there. I forget about that. He was actually on the Dodgers. He was very good with them too. Trying to go out with his 3rd ring of his career, and have three rings and 3 Cy Young awards, just to further his resume. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a national. I would think that was where his best years were. That and Detroit, but mostly Washington. So he's going back to the Blue Jays with 1 more year. Again, I love Max Scherzer. Again, he didn't really torture the Yankees last year. I don't even think we faced him last year in the division series. We did in the regular season, not in the postseason. But giving it one more go, probably for retirement. Yeah.
And now we have 1 week until the World Baseball Classic, 2 weeks
That is
until
true.
NFL free agency. So we'll have more to talk about pretty soon.
That is true. And real quick, that does remind me that Tarek Skubal announced he's only getting 1 start for the U.S. He's going to get that against Great Britain, which is a little very not just a little. It's very disappointing. You want that start to come against the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, even Mexico or Italy. Great Britain is not really.
Great Britain have
Jazz Chisholm Jr., but like,
yeah, I mean,
who cares? Other than that, I know Aroldis Chapman. I think I could be wrong.
Aroldis Chapman's British.
Not like it's like a heritage thing, I think. Someone in his family was, a grandparent or something,
Mm.
but, so I think that qualifies him. But yeah, so we do have that to look forward to. That is always exciting. That was we had a very good, one the last time, 2023. US, lost came short against Japan, fell short against Japan. That was Max Mike Trout striking out against Shohei Ohtani to end that game. It was a great tournament overall, hoping this one could be just as good. But, until then, and we'll talk about that more then, and much more news I'm sure will come up. It's been a slow time. We had the big snowstorm, and everything's been really slow around here in general, but things will catch up. Spring is coming, and until then, this has been the Woodlawn Station.